All right, everybody, welcome to the Jove podcast. We dive deep into the evolving world of recruitment and talent acquisition. Today, we have a special guest who's been at the forefront of the industry for over 2 decades. Please welcome Kalpesh Baxi, co-founder of Baxi Consulting and veteran in the recruitment space. Kalpesh, pleasure that you're on this Jove podcast. This is our fourth.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, we know each other a little bit now, so it's great to have you on board. I suppose what I want to do is just touch quickly. You can do a little intro on your journey in the recruitment space.
Brilliant. Okay, so 2 decades doesn't sound as long as what it actually is, right? So I'm going to go with that, Duncan. So look, my name is Kalpesh Baxi. I have been in the recruitment and staffing industry for 27 years and counting. I've tried to leave twice, but I love it so much I keep coming back. I started my career at a company called S3. Joined as a graduate when it only had a couple of hundred employees. I left in 2019, sitting on the UK&I board when it had over 3,000 employees globally. Had an amazing journey, amazing time. I've been privileged, and I use the word privileged, to see how our industry has evolved. And all the way from just doing pure play perm to contract, to going global, to scale and size. And the conversation you and I had, Duncan, was this thing called RecTech. Is now making a play and getting involved. My passion is around people. So what I enjoy about the sector we're involved in is actually, one, it's a two-sided marketplace. There's a client, there's a candidate, but actually there's a third side because the client and the candidate can be both. So, mixing up. And look, I'm super passionate about the conversation we're going to have today.
Yeah, I mean, this is my first podcast, so it's going to be a few bumps.
You're doing good.
You mentioned HR tech, rec tech, people tech. Do you know what I mean? There's all this kind of like mix, yeah. Obviously, there's some crossovers. Rec tech. Now, you were always people. S3 was a people business, wasn't it? And then obviously technology started to creep through. We got, technology doing SDRs for us. Finding new clients, enriching data, etc., etc. Are you seeing that rec tech kind of world going at the moment with the industry?
So I think the first thing is it's probably worth acknowledging that S3 was the master 360 recruiter, right? Because the whole industry was based on we have delivery and we'll have sourcing. With S3, it's like as a recruiter, you're a 360 recruiter. You are responsible for winning business, servicing business, finding candidates, managing candidates, and then over time it's kind of evolved a little bit more. But one of the things about S3, and I'm just going to touch on that one, I think it's good as a reference point. S3 was ahead of its time with technology as well. So when most of our competitors were still doing it very manual and very traditional, S3 was already looking for that competitive advantage, be it the CRM, be it the relationships with the job boards. S3 even created its own job board, right? So, called the IT job board. So they were always looking for those niches. So I suppose I've been privileged, right? And I use that word a couple of times because I think you've got to feel like you're privileged to go through the journey we're going through, right?
Yeah.
Rec tech, HR tech, people tech, workforce tech, whatever you want to call it, right? Fundamentally, it's been around in some way, shape, or form. And how we're now moving forwards, particularly in the recruitment industry and the staffing industry, we'll still have 360 recruiters. They're not going anywhere. But the industry is now evolving and learning from other sectors to go, okay, how do we slice and dice the role? How do we now empower technology to take on some of those roles and some of those tasks that you no longer need a human for?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're going to talk a lot about because that's my sweet spot is technology. And of course, everybody's talking about it with AI coming in and having a massive impact into all industries, right? But what's your current thinking around the trends, say this year? Where's the significant shifts happening?
Okay, so I think that the reality AI is here, right? It's not going anywhere, okay? I don't think recruiters are going to be replaced by the robot, and AI is not going to replace all recruiters. The big shift I think we're going to start seeing this year is we're going to, recruitment owners and founders, directors as well, are they now going to start looking, okay, well, how do you use this enabling technology to actually improve performance? And how do you then get your recruiters to focus on the tasks they had most value for? So, if I go back 10, 15, 20 years when we met, we were joking about, the whole thing about the fax machine and post and we're both in the era of just about of understanding the world pre Windows to some degree, right? Being mainstream. So I think every time we have a tech jump, the world does to evolve. And one of the things I say about recruitment, Duncan, is there's a perception that recruiters aren't very good at evolving with the times. They're a bit backwards with some of the technology. I get that compared to other industries, but recruiters are masters of evolving and changing and adapting with the new way of things are being done. So, whether that's the internet, whether that, I go back to the days of, I started working in recruitment in 97. My director at the time turned around and said, okay, Kalpesh, one of your key metrics is you have to collect fax numbers. Faxes are going to be the future.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? A year later, no one cared about fax numbers. In 97, there was one computer in the office with an email address.
Wow.
That was for the whole office. Right?
Yeah.
There was no personalized email address. So I think as the world has evolved, the big things I see this year, I think is going to be about how you use technology for business development, how you use it to prospect and win customer opportunities, how you use it to keep clients. So, that customer success language that we've talked about before, but how do you use technology to stay connected with your customers? And finally, how do you use technology to give a better service? And that means, how do you source better? How do you engage with your candidates better? And fundamentally, how do you become more efficient as a recruitment business and be more profitable as well?
100%. It has to be, because obviously it's quite a crowded space, right? So, and margins are quite slim at the moment, so we have to find those efficiencies somewhere, right? And
it's about marginal gains, right?
Yeah.
We're in a world right now, and the big thing, we met up a couple of weeks ago and we had a real good chat over a whole bunch of things. And one of the things we talked about, well, if this is the market, if this is as good as this market will be, how do you win? And my conversation when I do advisory work is Baxfield, or I'm working in HR tech or reg tech, or I'm talking to end corporates in TA, etc. The whole concept is, how do you get that? How do you get that win, that conversion that plays in your favor?
It's the 1%, isn't it? That's how England won the Rugby World Cup. Do you know what I mean?
Are we allowed to talk about
that? Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this. There's a bit of a shift into the SOW type of workspace, right? So delivery, right? So you either, is full-time employment going to slow down, in terms of full-time FTEs coming on board, or are they going to start moving to contractors, etc., or are recruitment agencies actually taking on SOW type of work? What do you reckon?
So if I start with let's talk about the end client first of all, right? The corporate. So the enterprise, I think, if you look at what HR leaders are having to contend with now, they're having to deal with a blended workforce. And part of that was forced on the speaks of COVID.
Right.
On-premise, off-premise, hybrid. And then from that, we've always had permanent contracts. But what we're now seeing is, okay, well, are those permanent employees full-time? Are they working part-time? Are they working flexi hours? Are they in the office? Are they out of the office? And then that contract contingent that we've been dealing with before. We've always had a contract market, that non-payroll workforce that you have in the company. And traditionally, it made up one of two things. It was either a consulting workforce, where you've employed someone from a consultancy to come in and do a piece of work for you, or it was people you hired on a time and materials basis.
Yeah,
that contractor. So I think if I talk about the future trend of the world of work, or the future of work, I think we're going to start seeing companies being more flexible with the type of resources they bring on board. So contract, if we just leave it there at a high level. But then if I take it down to the next level of staffing companies or the recruitment companies, it's already happening, right? Because they've had to shift, is the productization of services.
Yeah.
So, if I go back 10 years ago, pretty much all you ever heard about was perm or contract.
Yeah.
And if you're in America, it was direct hire or contingency, right? What we're now starting to see come through more and more is recruitment companies offering statement of work. They're offering contract, they're offering time and labor. They're trying to become a pseudo software house or consultancy company. And then on the permanent side of it, we're seeing retainers coming in. We're seeing RPO as a service becoming more of a thing. And then if I take it more broadly, whether it's the VMS or MSP world that you and I understand, Duncan, or it's that embedded offering. So we're now seeing recruitment shifting to say, right, how do you now make more consistent revenue that's predictable and scalable versus the traditional model, which has been I'll make permanent placements and I'll get paid when I make a placement.
Yeah. That's incredible, because I didn't think, if I was a large corporation or would I go to a recruitment company and say, listen, I want this project done. You got to find 100 people to do that, all that sort of stuff. And you're seeing a little bit of that happening. I mean, I've heard that sort of Harvey Nash and Echo, these kind of big companies are doing that. It's incredible.
And the boutiques are doing it as well, right? But you have to remember this. If you think about it from a corporate lens for a minute, and you've been in this spot before in your career, and I've dealt with enough of these companies, right? If a company wants someone to take the project away, manage it, deliver it, take the risk, just come and deliver the end goods, they'll go to a consultancy.
Yeah.
Right. So someone that will manage the risks, take the risk on, time and labor, provide the resources, and there'll be an end product at the end of it. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah.
That's one end, right? But that's a really expensive model. So if you think about your Accentures, your Capgeminis, your Atoses, your McKinsey's, Bain's, etc., that's kind of their model, right? But you pay a premium for that service.
Yeah.
Where recruiters add value is if the client is prepared to take on the risk themselves, or it's a low risk project, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
And you've got a recruiter tagged in to give you an SOW solution, which is basically a fixed price solution, right? Yeah. But they give you the labor, they give you the people, it's in a defined time frame, there's milestone payments, there's a whole bunch of things go behind it. Well, that's going to be a much cheaper solution as a corporate than if you want to go and hire Accenture.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's kind of like finding those right resources to do that work, and whether they have the capability to identify the right resources to do that work. I imagine that would be a joint effort between the customer and the recruiter to find that right body.
There is, and the one thing we've talked about a few times, right, which is one of the things I love about what Jove are trying to do is a disruptor in many ways of what you're trying to do. One of the key challenges that recruiters have, recruiters are super resourceful. We've talked about that before. And they're super adaptable. They will find a way to make something work, right? Which is brilliant. However, sometimes that find any which way to make something work can actually also lead to things going wrong or things not being done right. So, we've talked about statement of work, and I've been lucky to work with organizations and with professionals that can help me build these things. If you ask me to go and build a statement of work, I could probably get away with doing a basic one, or I'll probably use ChatGPT to do some of it. But if I wanted to do it properly with the right milestones, the right risk factors, the right project plan, you kind of need to get someone who understands how to do it.
100%. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. No, it's really cool insight. I mean, I love it. And so quickly before we wrap up as well, Kalpesh, because we want to keep this brief, is that what do you reckon? Where recruiters going to make their money this year, and what markets should they be in? What do you think of the UK market at the moment? Obviously, so much in the air, a lot of challenges. But what do you reckon?
Well, look, I think that the short answer is there's money to be made everywhere if you look hard enough, right? But if you look at some of the big super trends, you'd be crazy not to look at anything to do with AI. But the problem with AI is, it's kind of like the end goal. There's a whole bunch of stuff underneath. I think the super opportunities this year geographically, the USA is still going to be strong. Canada to some extent as well. Okay. The Trump factor, if you're creating jobs, if you're making things in America, creating jobs in America, creating tax opportunities in America, there's going to be opportunities, right?
Right.
The UK will be challenging, I think, this year, but let's not kid ourselves. It's still a $47 billion marketplace, right? So there's still opportunities. It just means you might have to fish differently or become more efficient in the way you do it. If I talk about super hot sectors, I think we can already see this year IT's on the way back. There's some, there's an uptick in IT coming through. So what I'd say to any of your listeners is look past AI, look at some of the other niches in IT. Energy is going to be hot because we still need to produce the energy to power the data centers that power the AI coming through. Food, fintech is coming back strong. So there's some real good, and engineering continues to be strong as well. So some real good industries coming through. And if you're at the other end of the spectrum, we still need care workers. We still need medical and healthcare staff. We still need teachers. We're going to need more construction people. So there's enough opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's cool. No, Kalpesh, that's good. I love it. I love your enthusiasm and optimism as well. I'm like yourself. Thanks for having for being on the show, on the Jove podcast. I shouldn't say show, but Jove podcast. And yeah, we'll see you soon. See you at the expo.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.